Hey everyone, and welcome to the Retro channel. Today we're going to be doing an unboxing. This big ass box right here comes from the Netherlands, from viewer Vichy, who's also a channel supporter now. He contacted me by email a few months back and we got talking about some Commodore related stuff, and well, long story short, this box appeared. It has been here for a couple of months, so I'm only just opening it now, but I don't believe it's a microwave oven. I don't plan on doing any custom kitchen deliveries, but I do have to move a few color TVs. Anyway, let's open this up, see what we got. Now, although he did mention what was in the box, I have kind of forgotten most of the details now, so this will be a surprise for all of us, I think. No doubt some of this stuff will not be working, and that's just the way I like it. We have a good amount of bubble wrap. And keen-eyed viewers might be able to get an idea of what's in here. Let's just put that aside for a second. All right. Another well-wrapped item. Looks kind of familiar. Mystery item. Is it static sensitive? Another mystery. It looks like some kind of drink. Possibly for when I get thirsty. Okay. I think this is the main attraction. Anyone want to take a guess? And that might be it. That is it. All right, let me get all this stuff up on the bench and get rid of this box here, and we'll take a closer look. So we have 5 packages here. I'm going to start by opening this one, as I think I may need to put it in the fridge. So what we have is a Grolsch Winterbock. One of the other things we were talking about over email was local beers. So yeah, nice touch there. So I'll get this one in the fridge and we'll inspect it a little bit more closely later. All right, let's go straight for the big one. I think some of you have probably already guessed what this is. And it's one thing that I don't actually have, even though it may appear like I've got one of these. I do, but not quite. Yes, a Commodore 128. There is indeed one over there on the shelf, but this is the metal case version, the 128 DCR as it's sometimes referred to. So yeah, pretty cool donation, I must admit. Now, I believe there is, I think he mentioned there was an issue with maybe the disk drive or something else, but we'll get to that, I guess. So yeah, very cool. Pretty amazing. Power switch is looking a bit odd. What can you do? The front has a bit of obvious yellowing, but nothing we can't handle. So yeah, I am pretty shocked. That's pretty awesome. So this package here shouldn't come as a surprise. That is one yellowed keyboard. Ah, yes. And that does remind me. So, yeah, there is this bow in the middle of the keyboard. We'll see what we can do about that. But, I mean, it's got all the keys, so that is an awesome start. And they feel pretty nice. In the little attached bag are some more feet, so I'm guessing, oh yep, a couple of feet are missing, so we'll stick them back on, no problemo. This one probably also won't be a huge surprise. Let's open her up. Although, it does have something rather interesting on it. It's got a little floppy drive cover. How cool is that? It's like leather. And there's a note. Very slow read in C128 mode, no burst mode, question mark. Oh. And this looks like the little warranty card. Well, we'll just send it in for warranty repair. 1387, so I'm guessing 13th week of 87 was when this was purchased. So yes, Commodore 1571, serial number is DA4 113723, made in West Germany. We didn't even look at the serial number on this. 128D, serial number HB1 012101, made in Hong Kong. Cool. So this sits over our drive, and there's a little cutout at the back, so you don't have to unplug it to put the cover on. It's pretty neat. Right, and the final package is a complete mystery. What could be inside? Ah, okay. It is the internals of another 1571. The note says lower head red wire question mark. We'll take a look at that in a minute. There is a disc in there. That's always good to transport them with the disc in. And I think this is just holding all these cables neat and tidy over here. So one of the other things we were talking about was 1571 disk drives, and I did mention that I have one around here somewhere and one of the heads is not working on it. So perhaps with the help of this one, maybe we can get a fully working 1571 out of it. I guess we should try and power on this 128D, see what it does, and take it from there. Alright, so I've got everything set up. I brought out the 1084 monitor so I can test both the 40 and 80 column modes. Everything should be good to go. I mean, this is a 220 volt unit and it's 240 volts in Australia. I don't think that's going to be a problem. I'm not going to connect the disk drive up yet. We'll just power on the machine first and see if it actually works. Alright, here we go. Oh. Left that in the disk drive. Probably not a good idea. I should take the other one out too. Cool, looks pretty good. There are some definite jail bars, but overall the image looks quite sharp. I really do like the 1084 for this purpose. It looks really nice. Keyboard seems to be working. That's always a good sign. Let's go 64. Cool, that all looks good. All right, let's try out 80 column. All right, so that's normal behavior when you've got the 80 column key pushed in. Let's switch over to RGB. Cool, that also looks good. Let's test out this disk drive. All right, disk drive's plugged in, let's power it on. Looks promising, although the motor is still spinning on it. Okay, this disk drive is flashing. I think they're both set to device 8. Yeah. So it may be tricky to see, but there is a little spot on the back of the disk drive. We just need to flip one of those dip switches. Power it back on. And again, the motor's still spinning on it. All right, both motors have stopped spinning. I'm not getting any flashing lights. Managed to hit caps lock while I was at it. All right, that goes to that device, so... And the other one's Commodore 9. All right, cool. All right, so I've got the Easy Flash 3 cartridge in. Let's just run some diagnostics. This is the 1541 diagnostic cart, so it will test the 1541 capabilities of these drives, but it won't do any advanced features like the double-sided mode or the burst mode. I'm going to use a 1541 test demo disc. So this is a pre-formatted disc from Commodore, and let's just start off with the alignment check. All right, that looks good. The on-track read is all 100%. That's the main thing we want to worry about. The between-track read isn't as critical. Let's use a random disk just to check the speed. Shouldn't be any issues here because the newer mechanisms have a speed controller. Possible this disk isn't formatted, just do a fast format on it. All right. Cool, so the speed's within 0.1 RPM, perfectly fine. Now I'm not sure if I can swap to device 9 from here. So it looks like this program is hard-coded to device 8, so we're just going to jump straight into the 1571 diagnostic tests. So for this, I'm going to use the SD to IEC and Epic's FastLoad cartridge. I had a video where I built one of these a little while back. I'm just going to set it to what hopefully should be device 10 or 11, so it doesn't conflict with either of these two drives. All right, so I had to reposition the 1571 over there because the cable on the SD to IEC is quite short. So hopefully you'll be able to see it just off camera. And so the cartridge boots into Epic's FastLoad. But that also forces it into C64 mode, which isn't going to work for this. We need to be in 128 mode to test the drives properly. Might have to go the Pi 1541. Right, so now I have the Pi 1541, which allows me to move the disk drive back over, so that's nice. I'm hoping it's not set to device 8, but as you might be able to see on the little display there, it says D8, so this is set to device 8, as is the internal drive. That's not going to work. So I need to change something in the config file for the Pi 1541. All right, so with any luck, I'll be able to load the 1571 test program from device 10. Cool. I'll put a link to this program in the video description. So we want to load from device 10. Air. It only lets us load from 8 or 9, because of course it does. Okay. All right, so the Pi drive should now be set to device 9. I've removed the external 1571 from this chain because we'll have to figure out a different way to test that. Right, so we want to load from device 9, which is the Pi drive, and we want to run tests on device 8, which is the internal 1571. The system type to be tested is 128D. I don't think it really matters. I think it just gives you more options if you set it to 128D. Both of them include the disk drive tests as far as I can remember. Should we just do all of them? All right, zero stop test wants a formatted write protected disk. So I've got one of those right here. That's good. Write protect sensor test, that should be perfectly fine. It is. Read write head bump test. Right, that's good. If the the zero stop sensor or the head bump test fails, there's a good chance that the zero stop is set in the wrong position, but everything looks good here. Should we do a read write test? Need a blank disk for that. Disk, we'll say the disk is unformatted. Force it to format it. All right, so it's done probably the lower side, and now it's doing the top side of the disk. So there, the lower side again, just with regular GCR or Commodore format that it usually uses. And this is the burst mode writing to the top side of the disk. And that also passed okay. I think it'll also do an MFM. Yes. All right. It wants us to insert this disk into another drive so it can test, make sure it reads fine on that. That's going to be a bit tricky because the other drive is currently the Pi 0 drive, so I can't really insert a floppy disk into that. Not a physical one. So we're going to skip the compatibility test. If it passed on the machine itself and the 1541 diagnostic that I had before showed that the alignment was good, I'm pretty satisfied that it's going to be perfectly fine. So our other options, the GCR soft error and the MFM soft error, take literally hours from memory to run, so I'm not going to do those, and I don't think it's really necessary. Let's go for logic diagnostic. Now, I'm not sure if it's going to fail because I think this specific ROM is only in the D version and not the DCR version, but I guess we'll find out. So this should be blinking at a constant rate. I guess it is. So one flash, system okay, and that seems to be what it's doing. All right, cool. Well, that wasn't very exciting. All right, so the alignment repair tests look very similar to the previous ones that we ran, so let's give them a try anyway. Display scope settings, that's interesting. So it looks like this actually has the provision to allow calibration with an oscilloscope. That might be something we'll look at in the future. Once again, this is a scope test. Maybe all of these are. No fucking idea. Motor on, motor off. Motor on, motor off. Yeah. A lot of these tests seem to rely on having an oscilloscope hooked up, so not much use there. 80 column test. So it looks like it's just using what I assume is the extra memory for the VDP chip or 80 column chip to perform a bunch of tests on the RAM. This is what the 80 column side is currently looking like. Wow, that's going to take a while. Right, well, I'd kind of hoped that it would exit this test after the first pass, but I've just noticed that it just keeps looping. So at this point I'm satisfied that the 128D is fully working, including the internal disk drive. I'm going to have to come up with a different plan to test the external disk drive because yeah, I pretty much need to write a actual floppy disk with that test program on it in order to load everything. Yeah, because the internal disk drive, it's not easy to change the device number. It can be done with hardware modification, but it's probably going to be easier to write the test program to this disk, load it off the internal drive, and then use that to test the external drive. If that program allowed extra device numbers apart from 8 or 9, this wouldn't be a problem. I could do everything off the Pi 1541, but unfortunately it doesn't. Just wondering if I can manage to change the device number of this in software, then I should be able to set this to like 10 or 11, and hopefully that way I can use the Pi 1541 and the external drive with devices 8 and 9. Actually referring back to one of my old videos to get that command to do this. Right, so all the devices are hooked up together. I'm not going to power on the external drive because that's going to create a conflict with the internal drive, because at the moment they're both set to device 8. So normally you want to power on the external drive before powering on the machine. Hopefully it's not going to be an issue here. So we'll change the internal drive to device 10. Close 15. Right, and then we'll power on the external drive. And with any luck, that should be 8, that should be 9, and that should be 10. Yes. 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 Now everything's flashing at me. We need a write protected disk. Let's just do all tests. All right, I need a blank disk. Let's say it's unformatted again. So far, so good. Why has it stopped? So maybe that's what this note relates to. Very slow read in 128 mode, no burst mode. And yeah, it's stopped at this test. That doesn't sound like a mechanical issue. That sounds more like maybe a logic or a ROM issue. I'm not sure. You'd think it didn't even try to start reading or writing, so it sounds like some electronic fault. Right, let's see what the logic test tells us for this drive. So hopefully it's got one of these revision ROMs in it. Return. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I'm getting 6 flashes on the drive, which, I mean, it is constant, I guess. 6 flashes says U20 failure. So now I've got 3 flashes. If I hit no at this screen, it actually tells me to reset the 1571 by turning the power off and back on again, which is what I did, and now I've got 3 flashes. So that's pretty inconclusive, and yeah, without power cycling it, it just gets stuck on this screen. And then I get 3 flashes, which says the RAM at UO3 is at fault. So I think there probably is an issue with the external drive, and yeah, it is probably related to this. I'm going to leave the external drive stuff alone for now. Let's focus back on the main machine. All right, so the final thing we're going to look at is the 128 DCR diagnostics. This is also available on Jani or Yanni's site. It is a slightly modified version of the original. This diagnostic requires a particular harness, which is basically unobtainium. So he modified it slightly so that it doesn't hang on certain tests. So originally with this test, it would hang at this I/O port test right here without the harness. All right, SID sounds good. Everything else looks good. You can also run this in 80 column mode. It will look a little bit different, but it's just really a random jumble of different colors in 80 column mode. So 40 column mode shows you all the actual details. Now there is a second part to this test, and that is the disk drive test. The way to access this is to reset the 128 using the reset button on the side. And that'll do the 1571 test. This will be interesting. Oh, no. It's the other drive that had issues with the burst mode. This one is fine. Cool. All is good. I think if I hit continue, it just does the test again. Yes, it does. All right, the last test I want to run is the C64 diagnostic with the harness connected. The only thing I don't have is the serial port loop back connector because I've misplaced it. Oh, and the keyboard connectors, I don't have the loop back for that either because I haven't made that dongle. It's obviously different from the 64 because keyboard connects to the side here, so I haven't bothered making one of those yet. In theory, all the other tests should pass except for serial. And it'll probably say U1 is bad. Or is it U2? U2. And it's saying cassette is bad. That's probably just my dodgy connector. So yeah, apart from my crappy connectors, I'm happy to call that good. So I think this machine is fully working. I guess there's only one thing left to do. So, the last thing left. Crack a beer. So it's a fairly dark color. The Grolsch Winterbock. So I guess it's a winter beer and yeah, a fairly dark ale. Something to warm me up in the middle of the Australian summer. Cheers. Not bad. Fairly malty. Ooh, there's a hint of cinnamon. I kind of like that. So, a huge thanks to Vichy for sending all this over. And silly old me tried to load up Super Mario 64 in 128 mode, which causes it to break. So, one sec. Right, where was I? A huge thanks to Vichy for sending all this over. I'll check out the external 1571 and also that extra mechanism in another video. We'll do a whole 1571 deep dive, I guess. But for now, I'm pretty chuffed that the 128D itself works perfect. So thank you, Vichy. Cheers, mate. And thank you to all my supporters on Patreon and everyone who likes, subscribes, and leaves friendly comments. I will catch you in the next one. Of course, the keyboard on this still needs a bit of work, so no doubt this machine will come back up on the channel again in at some point in the future. I've only had a sip. So yes, thank you all for watching. See you next time. Bye. Is that very Jan Beta like? It sounded Jan Beta in my head. Wasn't my intention, I promise. Doing well.